just about the heavyweight division in general. I wonder what you make of Anthony Joshua, who you worked with as well, heading into his fight with Oleksandr Usyk, his performance against Robert Helenius.
I thought that Anthony was a bit tentative. I thought that he could have done the job more efficiently, but I'm not in the ring. I'm not taking the punches, so he might have a different spin on that, a different perspective, if you will. But I thought that he was a bit tentative. One thing is certain, he can't fight Deontay Wilder the same style. He can't fight Deontay Wilder like that. He's got to go out there and establish himself better and more clearly with Deontay Wilder. But I thought that Anthony took more shots from Helenius than I imagined that he would take. He was getting hit specifically with a jab. He was just standing there in front of the jab, just taking a jab. You can see the effects of the fight on his face. Yeah. So I thought that he's a bit tentative, and I think that he has to step his game up to fight Deontay Wilder.
You were drafted into the camp for Anthony Joshua in his fight against Oleksandr Usyk. Do you feel that he was able to pick up what you were imparting to him and affect it against Usyk?
Well, I wasn't there that long to make that kind of impact on him. I think that he did himself an injustice by not having me there. I thought he did himself a great injustice by hiring Robert Garcia. Here's a guy that never trained a heavyweight. And training heavyweights is far different from training any other weight. Especially Robert Garcia had a reputation for building smaller fighters, lightweights, junior lightweights. It just didn't make sense to me, And the way the camp was set up, so I didn't miss it. I just came in. I think I stayed a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then I left. Because I just didn't think that the camp was suited for a fighter of that stature. In fact, I even questioned it. Why don't you do the same thing that Vladimir Klitschko and Lennox Lewis did? They constructed their own camps where they can have focus, concentration, and surrounded by purely professionals. But the atmosphere that he was training in, it didn't make sense to me. So I left.
Can you compare the difference between Joshua as a fighter and Daniel Dubois as a fighter heading into this Usyk fight?
Daniel Dubois is easier to train. Daniel Dubois is focused on what his trainer is teaching him, what his trainer is telling him. Where Anthony is a worldly person. He's here, he's there, he's talking to this person, he's talking to that person, he's talking to, Daniel Dubois is more concentrated, more focused on what he has to do. I think that Daniel Dubois is in a better place because of that, because he listens to what his trainer is telling him. And he's not affected, he's not surrounded by a lot of people in general telling him, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. He's affected. Anthony Joshua is a very nice guy, and that niceness sometimes can affect a fighter inside the ring. Because those people who are telling those things, most of them have never been in a ring. So, how could they relate to what you're going through in the ring? Mm-hmm. Whereas Daniel Dubois focuses on what his trainer is telling him, I like that about him.
In a general sense, look, you'll have the expertise, but we saw at heavyweight, Usyk have the most problems against Derek Chisora, who set about him, didn't give him a moment to breathe, really kind of forced and put the pressure on Oleksandr Usyk to make him make a few mistakes, make him take a few more risks. Is that the way to beat someone of his ability?
I think that Daniel Dubois is a big, strong guy, and I think that it's no secret that he has to use his youth and his punching power to make the difference in this fight. He cannot stand around looking at Oleksandr Usyk, because if he does, Usyk will do a paint job on him.
Yeah.
So he has to be concentrated. He has to be focused. He has to be willing to roll the dice, so to speak. Take the action to Oleksandr Usyk. Do not give him a moment's rest. That's his best chance of causing Usyk to make mistakes.
We look at him as one of the greats, a modern great on his way to getting into the Hall of Fame. Is he about as a complete fighter as you've seen in the ring?
Yes, but I think that a lot of this comes from modern trainers. Modern trainers is a lot of BS. I think there's a lot of flaws in today's fighters as opposed to yesterday's fighters. I think the techniques and the knowledge itself is gone. They're not as apparent today as they were yesteryear. You go back to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the trainership was different. The knowledge that was being applied to the boxer is different. And today's boxers are lacking that. You have a lot of flash in the pan so-called trainers. And I watch. Boxing is my business. Like I said, I've been here 55 years, and I watch and I observe different things in the trainership when the guys are working with the boxers, and I see so many flaws, you know. And I said, and they're leading these guys into fights, you know. And the boxers themselves, they got to recognize that my trainer is lacking. You understand? Because they're the ones that's going in that ring. They're the ones that's putting their lives on the line with inept trainers. So
it's fantasy for sure, but I'd love to get your opinion on this. How do you feel a Oleksandr Usyk Evander Holyfield fight would have played out if the two could have ever met in the ring?
I think Oleksandr Usyk would have spanked Holyfield. Holyfield always had problems with slick, crafty boxers. Oleksandr Usyk would have been a nightmare for Evander Holyfield. It wouldn't. I mean, did you see Evander Holyfield box James Toney, Chris Bird, Larry Donald? Those three fighters. All you got to do is look at those three fights, and you can imagine what Oleksandr Usyk would have did to Evander Holyfield. Holyfield's a rough, tough guy if you're fighting him, but Usyk is a scientist. He's there one minute, and the next minute he's in Oklahoma somewhere. You don't know what he's gonna do. So I think Oleksandr Usyk beats Holyfield easy.
I'm gonna get your thoughts on this as well. Look, WBC heavyweight champion, lineal heavyweight champion, is taking on Francis Ngannou in a crossover fight, which a lot of boxing fans disappointed about.
I think that Tyson Fury, you know, and there are people that gives me a lot of stick about this, but I think that Oleksandr Usyk beats Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
I think Tyson Fury does not want anything to do with Oleksandr Usyk. He says, "Oh, you know, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that." I don't think so. I think that Oleksandr Usyk would give him fits inside of a ring, you know, because he's big, he's cumbersome, you know. It's not easy for Tyson Fury to box with a magician like Oleksandr Usyk.
James, cognizant of the time, so it's been a great pleasure to speak to you. Just leave the final word with you. What happens on Saturday night, Usyk vs. Dubois?
I'm really hoping for a knockout. I want to put Oleksandr Usyk out of his misery early, you know. Within the first 6-7 rounds, Daniel Dubois' punching power will make the difference, you know. Youth is something that he holds in reserve, but it's the punching power, you know. I know that Usyk is going to come to fight, but Daniel Dubois is going to come to fight too, you know. And I hope that somewhere along the line between those rounds, 1 and 7, that Daniel Dubois catches him. If he catches Usyk in between that time or any other time, he's got problems, you know. It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight for both guys. It's a tough fight for Daniel Dubois because Usyk has so much experience. But it's also a tough fight for Oleksandr Usyk because of Daniel Dubois' punching power. So it's a risky fight for both guys.
James, absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for giving me some of your time. Thanks for speaking to Seconds Out, sir. Much appreciated.